Good day, and thank you, Louise, for the invite to Gauteng Provincial Legislature to participate in this interesting and informative conference. I'm certainly learning a lot, and one wonders why this didn't happen earlier, that Gauteng has participated in these events before. We are learning from a lot of other legislatures, and it's very interesting to benchmark with all these legislatures around the world. Now, some of you may not be aware of Gauteng itself. Gauteng is the smallest province in South Africa by land area. And that's 1.5% of the land area in South Africa. But it's home to more than 15 million people, or 25% of the population. So it's the economic hub of the country. The largest stock exchange in Africa is located in the province itself. Gauteng Provincial Legislature is situated in the city of Johannesburg and comprises of 73 elected members and 470 staff. From an end-user computing provision, we are fortunate that our members and staff are well equipped. 74% of our users are allocated laptops, and 100% of our staff and members are allocated smartphones. So everybody has a smartphone. Tablets are also provided to all members and senior management, and all our laptops are provided with cellular data to connect data networks. So in terms of our modernization journey, and this is what happened pre-COVID. So I'm just taking you on our timeline before we actually got to the COVID situation. Our modernization journey to the cloud started in 2015, when the presiding officers prioritized the creation of what is called the paperless legislature. At the same time, our board mandated that ICT address all the compliance issues that was plaguing us from an audit point of view. From an IT perspective, we developed a plan to work anywhere, on any device, and at any time. So the idea was to basically utilize those business tools that people had so that they can actually use it to access all the information in the institution whenever they wanted to. So there was no need to basically access paper. The plan also included elements to address compliance issues related to disaster recovery, as GPL did not have a secondary data center. In addition, the majority of the infrastructure was obsolete and software versions were almost out of support. There was also a need to basically overhaul the entire infrastructure in the environment, including the ICT processes, and prepare the institution for modernization. In 2016, the institution migrated every single user to the cloud version of Office 365 Productivity Suite. At the time, we were one of the first public sector institutes in South Africa to adopt this technology. And as early adopters, we were able to leverage incentives from the licensing vendor, which was Microsoft, to implement the solutions. Also in 2016, we adopted a cloud environment as a secondary data center for disaster recovery. That was our Microsoft Azure's cloud environment. Backups for virtual servers were stored in the cloud, where recovery servers could be spun up on demand. Now, this addressed the compliance issues that the board was concerned about. We also addressed the issues with the ICT incident management processes and the change management processes. We aligned this to ITIL standard, and this was to ensure that we increase stakeholder satisfaction in the institution. This adoption of Cloud Productivity Suite and Data Center had the immediate benefits of reducing capital costs and eliminating duplicate licenses. In fact, because of the reduction of license fees, the implementation had a payback of less than 3 years. The implementation of these cloud technologies were also published as customer success stories by Microsoft. So if you go on the Microsoft site and see the customer success stories, you'll see there's 2 articles about GPL there. In 2017, files stored on laptops and personal shared drives were migrated to OneDrive. This addressed one of the problems that we had in the institute, where people would lose their laptops, or they would damage their laptops, and they would lose data. So basically, we addressed that issue. SharePoint was also configured and deployed to enable collaboration on enterprise performance management reporting. We had an area whereby, at some stage, there was a document that was basically shared with everyone. There was 20 people that needed to populate that document, each populate their section. They passed it on to a single person who had to consolidate it. With SharePoint being in the cloud and collaboration on the Word document, it meant that you could update the document collaboratively and it automatically consolidated all the data. At the same time, we automated business forms and workflowed it, especially for member requests, travel requests, and building maintenance. And that was to reduce the paper because these were paper-based processes before that. In 2018, all non-production servers were moved to the Microsoft Azure, further reducing infrastructure capital costs. That migration of servers was also fully funded by Microsoft. So we've actually got a lot of money from Microsoft back paying for our licenses. In 2019, Microsoft launched the South African Azure site, and GPL migrated resources from Western Europe to South Africa. So we moved our site from overseas to South Africa. This addressed latency issues. The latency improved. I think it was from 200 milliseconds before that. It came down to 20 milliseconds. And there were also concerns of hosting our data outside the borders of South Africa. At that stage, we basically made a proposal to the ICT governance committees to approve the migration of production systems to the local cloud site, and we obtained that approval. So the entire infrastructure environment and productivity suite were completely modernized to a cloud environment, but utilization was low. So what we found was, while technology was modernized, people and processes were not modernized to take advantage of the new technology. We realized that change management and process design capacity and capabilities were impacting the modernization of the institute. And then came COVID. In March 2020, South Africa went into a complete lockdown. GPL did not cease operations, and the institute had to rapidly implement a new way of working to continue operations while continuing to serve the people of the province. For us, COVID-19 was a game changer for technology adoption. It created the new normal in the institution. Currently, the legislature has gone fully paperless. There are no printers on site. We've actually removed all our printers. There's not a single printer you will find in the GPL. Documents are distributed electronically using cloud applications, and all approvals are done electronically. Obviously, you can't print, so you have to actually approve now electronically. The rules of the House were changed to enable virtual and hybrid working methods, and that's how we are working at this point in time. Public participation in committee and House proceedings processes were reintroduced through various social media platforms, so we were able to broadcast these things to the public. And we also implemented a reverse billing solution in the institution. One of the challenges we had was that people did not want to spend money on their data to basically participate in activities of the legislature. The reverse billing solution basically allowed the public to attend and participate in virtual and hybrid legislature activities without incurring any costs on their part. The solution also allows the public to participate through messaging and polls, although that is being limited, there's limited use of that. In terms of cyber security sets, it's a concern for our ICT governance committee. The risk is elevated to the institutional risk register, so it's one of the big risks of the organization itself. It's just not an IT risk. And as we make more systems accessible to the public, as well as enabling full accessibility outside the perimeter of the physical buildings, we had to rethink security. So what we did was we leveraged the security standards of our cloud platform as they are considered best practices. The security recommendations on these platforms allow us to harden our security posture by increasing our security score. So we can actually measure where we are from a security perspective through that score. We can look at the recommendations that it recommends. We can implement those recommendations, and we can improve on our security. So it's measurable security that we have at this point in time. Also, from our user credentials are now protected with multi-factor authentication. All devices, whether they are laptops, smartphones, tablets, are protected with with a product called Intune, and that's part of our Microsoft stack as well. We've recently had to basically convert our vulnerability scanner to a cloud-based vulnerability scanner so that we can actually scan any device beyond the walls of the institution. In terms of initiatives that are supporting modernization, I think one of the positives that emanated from remote working under COVID was establishment of the Digital Legislature project. This project is led by business and is supported by IT. It's a multi-year project to leverage the momentum of digital change implemented under COVID conditions and to drive further digital transformation in the Institute. Phase one was a transition the Institute to remote working and the paperless way during lockdown, and we are paperless. We've achieved that. The next phase is to implement digital technologies and capitalize on phase one. Going forward, the Institute is working on medium and long-term strategies for what we call the legislature of the future. A study was conducted by our internal research department on the impact of COVID and technology, and they made certain recommendations that we needed to look at. And most of these recommendations you will find that are not technology related. There was a recommendation to document the new operating model, especially the modified business processes. A team of process modelers was established in this past financial year, and our financial year runs from April to March, to identify and model the business processes. They have currently identified 12 end-to-end processes. These processes have been modeled at a high level, and the next step is to model them at a detailed level and identify opportunities to optimize the processes. The impact on roles, responsibilities, and job descriptions will also be identified through this process. Another recommendation is to reskill and redeploy staff. The new way of working has meant that some areas are understaffed and some areas are overcapacitated. A good example is ICT is currently understaffed at this moment. And if you look at, we have a section called Documents and Services. Their role was basically to print documents and distribute it to members. They are actually have no role at this point in time with the virtual way of working and the paperless way of working. So a team led by human resources currently identifying these impacted areas to address the imbalance. There is a need to realign our policies and procedures to support the new way of working. Just as an example, we found that our current policy basically says that if we hire someone, we actually provide them with accommodation for 3 months so that it's like a resettling allowance. But if you're working from home, it doesn't make sense to actually have that. So we actually have to go back and relook at these things. So there's also a need for us to consider the impact of new information privacy laws on the processing of sensitive information and basically align our policies in line with that. In South Africa, we've recently had a new act on the privacy of information, the Protection of Personal Information Act, called POPIA. So it's something that all institutions in South Africa have to implement at this point in time. Also, there's impact with regards to space optimization and improving the health and safety and security of MPLs and staff. So effectively, if you look at our building that we have, do we need so much of space? Do we need so much of, to accommodate people if we are working in a hybrid method at this point in time? There has been informal collaboration between ICT departments of the different legislatures to share knowledge. GPL hosted all legislatures in July last year, South African legislature, July last year, to focus to basically share knowledge. And now the focus is to basically formalize that collaboration between the legislatures. Another area that we're currently looking at is strengthening of the governance of ICT. We recently produced a ICT strategy, and one of the objectives is to actually strengthen governance. Now, the governance structures are responsible for providing direction and making decisions on ICT activities, and therefore they play a critical role in modernization. We are currently creating awareness amongst our governance structures on their role in the adoption of digital technologies and 4IR technologies. Thank you. That's on my side presentation. I'll try to stop sharing.